Thank you for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And today we have someone who has done just that. He has literally fought his way to an epic life. He's incredibly educated. He is a PhD in psychology. He also is a chiropractor. He's written a ton of books. And now he's putting all of that information to work and being a coach. It's really fascinating. You will learn a ton. And let me tell you, Dr. Ron is your friend. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments and we will get back to you. Thank you. So, Dr. Ron, thanks so much for joining us on Think Your Way to an Epic Life.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is good. So I'm just going to start off with a really big question. You're a doctor, a psychiatrist, and you're a chiropractor. Which came first?
Well, actually, I'm a PhD psychologist. As a psychiatrist is a medical degree. I got the PhD in my late 20s, and then I used the breath. I used movement. I've had centers in Switzerland and America where there was we had yoga and all sorts of different things going on. So I wanted to learn more about the body, and that's probably in my late 30s when I went and got my chiropractic degree and became a doctor of chiropractic.
Okay, and do you use both of those in your current practice now?
Well, the chiropractic is just awareness of the body for me more than anything else. So I don't do chiropractic, chiropractic is really the study of the nervous system. People don't realize that. They really are neurologically doing a lot of studies and that type of thing. And so, yes, neurology is a huge part of what I'm all about, what I'm studying, how we shift the body, the mind, and develop into who we really are capable of being.
I love it. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is just right up my alley. So can you give us an overview of what your practice is right now?
I'm a transformational executive coach. I probably narrowed it down to that title about 10, 12 years ago when I wrote my first book. My publisher really saw he'd gotten to know me quite well, or she actually, that publisher, and recognized that I had this very unique ability to take people into higher levels of consciousness. And of course, that also, in the past, it was more personal development and growth, but she really saw that I had worked with some extraordinarily high-level leaders. I had helped AT&T through their divestiture of NFL owners and different people that I'd worked with. And she saw that ability to take people into those states of consciousness was really the same as guiding people into higher levels of leadership. And that really the difference between a mid-level leader and the higher level conscious leader is basically their level of consciousness, self-awareness, awareness of others, consideration of, what they're doing with themselves, the planet, and the organizations that they develop. And so, did that answer your question?
It did, but we're going to dig a little deeper because everything that I've researched on you, leadership seems to stand out. I mean, you seem like a man who is never, ever even close to done learning. Okay. And leadership really, really matters to you in a big way. Why is it so important to you?
I'll tell you a little secret. I was out I also developed Japanese gardens, and I don't do it professionally anymore. It was kind of a sideline that I had a team doing. But I was trimming the Japanese maple, a low dissectum style maple, and my mind is relatively quiet, extraordinarily quiet to most people. And as I was trimming the tree, I was in a very high state of consciousness. I wasn't even aware of it until at some moment I realized that I wasn't even thinking. I was just moving through this process. And what caught my attention was that I was having a deep inner conversation with my great-grandchildren, the two boys. And I was sort of listening to it for a moment. It was like they were asking me why I was leaving the world in worse shape than I'd found it in, because I know that's my nature is to make everything better. And I was in the middle of giving them a really nice story that none of us were believing. And and I caught myself. I went, wow. And in that moment, I realized that if I really do want to create a more conscious and caring world, that the people that can have the greatest impact on not only an organization but a society are the high-level conscious leaders. And not only an impact, but a lasting impact. And that was about the time I realized, okay, so I have this unique ability, a developed ability, but to really guide people through whatever they need to go to let go of whatever they need to let go and heal and really fall in love with themselves, but also become that high-level leader that can consciously create learning organizations, create significant impact and effect to benefit everyone in the world. And so that's when I narrowed it in and put that all into that sort of context and intention.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack here. You climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed this ladder, and you got to the top, and it wasn't what you were supposed to be doing. And now that you're doing what you are supposed to be doing, what's the difference?
Nothing.
Nothing. There's no difference between doing what you weren't supposed to be doing and what you are supposed to be doing.
I was always supposed to be doing what I was doing.
Oh, okay.
We've reached a time where, when in the 80s, when I was the executive vice president of Intergame Corporation, I was helping AT&T through their divestiture from a monopoly to 5 for-profit companies. I was really working with the top-level leaders, the people who ran AT&T and all the way down, and I saw just how those top-level leaders were just choking the life out of the organization. And they could get away with it as a monopoly, but not in a for-profit where you want your people thinking and being collaborative and cooperative and make it a learning organization where it can be more profitable and productive. So, I had developed some amazing materials and programs for them, and they were extraordinarily excited about them. But when push came to shove and we were going to implement them, they watered them down so much that I just was like, okay, never mind. So I left leadership in terms at that point because I really saw that they were so head in the sand and, stuck in being in fearful control that we weren't going to get anywhere. And so I went more into private practice. I did, it's not that I wasn't working with incredible leaders still. AT&T was kind of a corporate model, but I went into, the owner of an NFL team, the owner of a national hotel chain, so I was working with leaders, but I was also working more with them just as regular folks. And so it's just a matter of clarification. And I think everything that I've done, I had to do to get to where I am so that I could do it on a level that, that it's not just focused on leadership. It's focused on healing that little child within them, because that's where the source of all their issues and challenges in their workplace and at home really begin.
So it sounds almost like you are working more on the subconscious mind than on the conscious mind.
Well, you have to develop self-awareness. That's really what a good leader is working on. They develop self-awareness. They develop really emotional intelligence, compassion, sensitivity for themselves. And that comes from really that inner journey. I think the biggest challenge I see in leadership today is that they're looking outside of themselves for answers that can only be found within. So I happen to be really good at taking them on that inner journey. It's a journey that I guided people on for decades, and certainly journeyed myself on that extensively. So, I draw them back into, I guide them back into, where did you begin? As a child, we come into this world wanting love more than anything else. And we want unconditional love more than anything else, because that assures us that we'll be taken care of and nurtured and survive. And that habit of looking outside of ourselves just continues. As we get into grade school, it's like, who should I be? How should I be? What should I wear? What should I do? What should I feel? What shouldn't I feel? And so we leave a lot of who and what we are behind. through that enculturation period. We really discard and set aside what really are going to later turn out to be incredibly vital and valuable parts of ourselves. And we stick them into that cave, as my mentor, Joseph Campbell, talks about. You have to enter that cave within to discover the treasure that you seek. And that treasure is what I guide people into. I guide them into opening those cave doors and recognizing what they're at the effect of, what they're limited by, what their perspectives are determined by. And as they discover who they are, when they become more aware of who they are, they also learn to heal those things in really safe, comfortable, exciting ways. They understand that everything they did as a child to survive was really incredibly perfect. They came up with a program for getting low to optimize that amount of love they could get in whatever family of origin or situation they were in. And so they appreciate, it's like, okay, well, if I could do that at 3 years old, I can still do it now. But I need to shift that program for getting low from looking outside to looking within. I need to learn that to go within myself and accept and love myself unconditionally. And that is the treasure that's in that cave, is that unconditional love and self-acceptance. You discover who you are. And the clarity that comes with that, and that's really that's the next shift, is you see what your highest intention is. You begin to recognize that you're here for a purpose. At a later level, you might recognize that nothing matters, but within recognizing nothing matters, you also see that everything matters. And so whatever you do, whatever you realize is your thing, that becomes your highest purpose, and that becomes your compass heading in life. And so having gotten to that level of healing, you've got a very quiet mind by that time. You've got integrated whole brain thinking going on neurologically. You develop that. You've also got your forebrain now waking up. The forebrain is meant to be the conscious CEO of our mind, not the amygdala, the emotional center, the fear-based center that most of us are run by. So as that forebrain begins to develop and blossom, it really has this bigger picture of what's best for everybody, because that's truly what's best for us. And that takes our level of thinking, for our perspective, everything. Our level of consciousness is expanding, quite literally, through neurologically rewiring our brain. And for the folks that really, the higher level players that I'm working with are actually going to a place that I call using big mind. That's where I come from. Big mind is really, you are not thinking, you're basically, when you need a design or you need a solution, or you're running into some sort of challenge, rather than trying to figure it out, rather than using that left logical brain that you were so successful with in the beginning of your life, you really learn to quiet your mind completely. And in that quiet, you put out what you're looking for. And as you put that out, you trust that it'll come to you. And it's not like you're putting it out to some vague something or something separate. You're putting it out to the highest and best part of who you are. And in that quiet, we literally create a neurological, it's called an alpha bridge in our brain. So, most of us know we have different frequencies, when we're sleeping, when we're meditating, when we're active, all those different frequencies. But generally, people are only accessing one frequency, and usually because their mind's so noisy, not a very elevated level of thinking there. As you go into big mind, you are accessing all of those frequencies simultaneously and at the highest level. So the best of who and what you are is going to come in and reveal itself. And I watch people use it to design a hinge for their mobile, home that they're developing, or to solve giant problems of an organization or relationship issues. And it's quite amazing. I mean, I generally come from that all the time.
So what % of time would you say that you're in what I would call in the flow?
Well, in that moment, what I know is I go into a place of complete silence. There's nothing going on in here. I'm not thinking, I'm waiting for something to come in, and nothing comes in. And I'm going to take that as pretty much all the time, unless I'm playing golf.
The true man, the true doctor comes out on the golf course. Okay. So basically you're saying that, I'm assuming that you, with everything that you've said, I'm just making an assumption that you regularly meditate.
I think my life is a meditation. I'm really, life for me is about breathing. Breathing is what allows us to let go. Breathing is what allows us to become. What you're letting go of is anything that's in the way. It's really you're letting go of any limitation. You're breathing into anything that's ready to be healed. You're breathing into and becoming all of the time. It's so my breath guides me into and through my life. And it guides me on my journey into the highest and best of who and what I can be. Because all these, a lot of people go, I've got this challenge, I've got this struggle, I've got this desire, whatever it is. And all of those things are really nothing but indicators of what's ready to be healed within you. All of those are nothing but indicators of, they're opportunities. They're not challenges. They're not limitations. They're opportunities. Going, I'm ready to be healed now so that you can access more of who and what we are. So that we can, you're dealing with this challenge. Well, there's a part of you in here that's ready to be healed that can help you through that challenge. And that's how we learn to, rather than stutter and start through different levels of comfort zone, we learn to instead relax and evolve, which is really how we're in a world with nothing but change is the only reality we have. We should be flowing with that river and not standing in it trying to fight it and be afraid of it.
Got it. So if someone came to you or someone was referred to you, because I'm sure that you probably work mostly by referral, if someone was referred to you and they come in and they're the hard driving CEO who doesn't really give a crap about the janitor and blah, 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 how do you take them from there to, and who do they become? Do you have a story, without a name, but do you have a story of like, you have somebody in your mind right now, that person, huh? Do tell.
It was just before COVID. I got a call and, a hard nut. He was a bull of a guy. And I just, he was referred by a client, a female that I had worked with a few years before that. And so I was willing to sit with him and see where he wanted to go. And really what was motivating was that loss of the love of his life. And with COVID hitting, he owned national hotel chains. He had 5 9-figure businesses. And they were, so everything looked jeopardized and threatened. And so he was fragile. He was humbled. He was vulnerable. And that's the moment when they're vulnerable, then we can have a conversation. So, I live on an island across from Seattle, and he actually came up and rented a place for a few months. And he basically, his first comment when we got together was, "And this love stuff, I don't love myself, and I do fine." And I was like, okay, do I even want to sit down?
Oh my gosh.
But as I started talking to him, as I started getting him to recognize he wasn't breathing, as he began to breathe and look deeper within himself, as he began to recognize that as he breathed, he was discovering aspects of himself that he was completely unaware of. He was discovering what he was at the effect of, fears that he was at the effect of. And people don't really like to be at the effect of things. They don't like to be out of control. And so you use those things, one uses those things to get them to recognize that their whole definition of control sucks. Their whole definition of control is really, from my perspective, a definition of being out of control, because they're limiting themselves with it and they're coming from a place of fear. And so they get intrigued, they get curious. And when you start getting somebody breathing and exploring and being curious, they become more present. And in that state of presence, they begin to be more open. And they begin to be more receptive to the And in that state of openness, begin to see the other options that they have available. They see what their best next step is, which might be just to breathe again, might be just to say the next sentence that I'm asking them to explore with, might be to just recognize, oh, I need to really look at this in a whole different way. So within a month, he had actually fallen in love with himself. He really had. And it was just so fun to watch because he was such a sweetheart. And within 2 months, he had completely restructured his organizations, and they were all blossoming in the middle of COVID. And wasn't very long after that, the love of his life came back, and they ended up getting married, and they're living happily ever after. Wow. Yeah. So as the owner, and you saw the value of what we were doing, how it was affecting these organizations, how they're becoming more productive and profitable in months, literally. He ended up within a year doubling the value of several of them.
Woo!
Yeah, exactly. So he was sending me his C-suites, and several of them developed into the CEOs of 5 organizations. And so he was able to step back and not be micromanaging everything that they were doing. And, as I think I mentioned, one fellow that I was talking to, I said, well, when did you last speak with him? And he goes, oh, I haven't talked to him for months. So, it was really, the organizations are doing well. He's trusting everybody. He's being supportive. They really turned into what I would call learning organizations, developmental leadership training organizations. And but he's really now working with one organization and one small aspect of that organization, and he's going to develop that, and it's already there. That's going to develop and be more profitable and productive than all of his organizations together. And that's my first book is about. What is my first book about? Overscheduled by Success. And it was written for exactly that, because these people get so caught into their success and they're caught into what they've done. But they always have these projects that they really like to be doing, but they don't have time because they're so busy controlling and leading. So as they learn to really back away, they find they have more time. They have a higher level of consciousness. They have greater insight and ability to create the thing that they really dream to create. And then they do that, and really that's their life.
Wow. And it's exactly the opposite of what people think. However, Warren Buffett, I saw a documentary on him, and once a year, he'll write to the people that work for him, and he'll say, how's it going? Is everything okay? Right? The people that he basically buys businesses and partners. You already own the business. He comes in, he partners with you, and then he leaves you alone and lets you do what you do best. And it's so much better for everyone.
Well, it empowers everyone. They feel like they're a valued member and part of something that's really important, and that allows them, it brings out the best in them, and it brings out the best in everyone involved. Not only the people within the organization, but who you're buying from, selling to, your concept of taking care of the planet in relationship to what you do. It all becomes that place where you're creating a more conscious and caring world, which is my little secret agenda behind everything I do.
I love it. I love that you have a secret agenda. And I wouldn't say new to it. I've probably been meditating for about 4 years, but I'm new to being very serious about it in the past, 6 months. And what you said is so true. Things just come to me. Answers just things that I've been worried, I'm not even thinking about it, and boom, there's your answer. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And you can learn to do that all the time. I mean, I learned to do it sitting with clients. I initially would be trying and efforting and wanting to rescue them. And, a year of that frustration and resistance, I realized, well, that's not it. And when I was, I'd probably meditated 30,000 hours by that time. And so I started just okay, I'm just going to sit here in the silence and see what comes up. And so that was how I started that practice. And I'd watch things come out, and I had to learn to trust whatever's going to come out is okay. And
yeah, I can kind of relate to that when I'm coaching, because you don't know what's going to come up. You never know when someone gets on, I had one lady that got on and I said, how are you? And she said, okay. And I'm like, I'm not believing you. And she told me that her 10-year-old daughter had been cutting herself, and she found out from the school psychologist. Now go. Right? It's like, okay, you have to be able to trust in something besides yourself when you're really getting into people's intimate, private world.
I think that it's odd that you say that, because I was speaking with one of my clients in India yesterday, and the exact same circumstances came up.
Whoa. Yeah, it with the work you're doing is incredible. So who is the perfect client for you, Dr. Ron?
Well, I used to think it was that top-level CEO, so we could just make a big bang right out of the gate. But I'm really finding that anybody within a year can become a high-level conscious CEO. So that whole ladder to success is out the window. You don't have to wait until everything set up for you. You can you become that higher level leader. And I watch people as they move into that level of leadership, that level of thinking, that perspective, that confidence, that awareness, that sensitivity to others, they begin to automatically suggest things in the organization they're in, or they come up with ideas and begin to create an organization. But, you get somebody coming in and then they're giving you all these ideas, and these ideas are working. You're going to give them more and more responsibility and opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay. So if someone comes into you for the first time, I know the answer because you just told me you wait for the answer. You don't have an agenda. If I come to you and I say, okay, I need your help. You don't have an agenda set out that every time someone comes in the first time, this is what I'm going to say, and we're going to go through this.
Yeah, I had a couple neighbors when I was growing up that lived next door. They were in their early 20s, and they would guide people into the forests and rivers for fishing and hunting up in Canada and Alaska. And I really don't see myself as doing anything different. People come to me and they're saying, I'm ready to go on this journey, this inner journey, really this journey into leadership. And it's like, well, great. I happen to have gone on that journey many times on my own and with thousands of people. And so let's go. And so I help them understand what they need to do to get ready for that journey, how they can enjoy it, and guide them safely through that journey. And, hopefully in time, that's a journey that they're also helping others.
I think that has to be, it's kind of like you don't want to be the Dead Sea where the nice fresh water comes in and you don't ever give it to anybody else and you're dead. So it's kind of the way it is. Wow. Okay, Dr. Ron, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Well, my curiosity, and maybe it's because I jumped into this, after getting out of the Marine Corps in my early 20s out of necessity, but it's why aren't people excited about creating an inspiring life? Why do they have to wait until they're in such pain and difficulty before they're humbled to a place where they're going, okay, I need to make a difference? So it's how do we get people to breathe and love themselves enough to begin to be kind and take care of themselves, and see how that can reflect in their relationships with others in the same way?
So that's an age-old question there. And I think what you're doing is one person at a time is how we do it.
Right. Yeah. Got a couple of fellows who are wanting to start a company using AI that would expand who I am, what I am, and this work that I'm doing. So we'll see how that we can touch people, not perhaps at the same depth, but in some way that inspires them to be on the journey of personal growth.
It's the baby steps. It's my favorite movie of all time, and I think you probably know it. It's What About Bob? Oh my gosh, you will love that. Richard Dreyfuss is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and Bob is the very funny guy. Anyway, he talked about baby steps, and it's so true. if you just can change someone's trajectory, just tiny hair, they just go in that same direction because they're obviously not thinking, they're going whatever direction it is. And if you can just get your little self in there and just a little bit, it's pretty amazing what happens. Like Atomic Habits. If you're just 1% better every day, you're 37 times better at the end of the year. Just a little bit makes a big difference. And having a coach, you guys, I'm a coach. I'm a different kind of coach, but I'm a coach. Having a coach is like having a guide. It really cuts your time to get there massively. There's no way to really describe how much.
I don't think, at least in the terms of the work that I do, I don't think we can do it on our own. All of our challenges that are created in relationship to others, I think they need to be healed in relationship to others. And, a coach or somebody like myself is really that first other that you begin to find a trusting and supportive, nurturing relationship where you can begin to explore and discover. And then it gets, expands from there.
Well, you sound very trustworthy, and we will put all of your information in the below. So if you're thinking about this, just do you do a first call that's no charge?
Yes. Yeah. Important call where they begin to see, okay, this is my biggest struggle or challenge. This is my dream come true. It's like, well, okay, so what do you need to do to shift and create that life? And really, always, that's the part they go, oh, they recognize the truth of it. And they finally see, everybody's being held back by some unknown that they can't seem to quite figure out. Well, in that discovery call, that's exactly what I show them. This is what's holding you back. This is what you need to heal and let go of so you can move into what you're really capable of.
Okay, guys, you have a free discovery call. Just give him a call. If you have questions about anything that we've talked about today, the best way to interact with us would be on YouTube. This is a podcast that you listen to on all the different things, but on YouTube, you can leave comments and Dr. Ron can answer them. I can answer them. So please leave comments, share this with your friends if you think it will help, and why don't you try out a discovery call? Thank you, Dr. Ron. We appreciate your time so very much. And thank you for your service to our country.
Oh,
thank you.